Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host Ahmed Nawaz with the latest roundup of sports today. Let's take a look at what we're discussing. First of all, the ICC Men's ODI Cricket World Cup to be played in India. Now a couple of days to go before the mega event kicks off, but right now we've got the warm-up fixtures that are underway. Currently all the action is live on PTV Sports HD. You can watch New Zealand taking on South Africa in a warm-up fixture. Of course, this becomes South Africa's first game because their first match against Afghanistan was washed out, so necessary practice for them. But the second one for New Zealand, because earlier they had beaten Pakistan by 5 wickets in a high-intensity chase, for us at least, but for them it was just 43 point something overs. So they wrapped it up pretty easily. But the fact is that it was a warm-up game, so let's treat it like one. But once again, we've got on the other end, Bangladesh is playing England. That match is also underway at Guwahati, and these two games are being played. When we talk about tomorrow, we know that Pakistan is going to take on Australia. That becomes another very important game for Pakistan. I think if we can take some positives from the first warm-up game, at least our batting clicked, but our bowling didn't. But this time I would fancy Pakistan to chase a target, you know, maybe just to get the feel of what it feels like in a high-intensity chase, if you can get the opposition to a decent total. So we'll talk about that in detail as well, because you know, if you look at the stats so far in these kinds of conditions, Pakistan traditionally should do well. So we'll talk about that in detail as well. Then of course we move on to the Asian Games 2023, where Pakistan is back silver medal in the team squash event. So we'll discuss that in detail. They lost to India in the final. It was a final game, the final set. Pakistan was on match point, but unfortunately the Indian opponent got 3 points in consecutive fashion, and you know, therefore Pakistan couldn't win this game. It was a big disappointment, because if you're on match point you expect to seal victory, but you know, India was just too good. So we lost at squash, but we gain a silver medal. India ends up getting the gold medal. Before that, Pakistan had received their first ever bronze medal in the Asian Games. The first medal was courtesy of a 10-meter air pistol event by our female athletes. So we'll talk about that. Then we move on to hockey, and Pakistan up against Japan is going to decide the fate now, because it was an intense game between Pakistan and India. Pakistan lost 10-2. India had the better of us, but you know, this Pakistan-Japan game is going to decide the tone, because whoever wins is going to qualify for the semi-finals. Both Pakistan, Japan and India, all three of them actually, you know, if you talk about them, they were in contention. Pakistan and Japan tied on points, India ahead of us, but because of the goal difference, Japan was, you know, at second position and we were at third. So if we manage to win this game, we're going to have a sure shot of not just semi-finals, but also I think in contention for the medals as well. And you want hockey to do well, considering what the situation has been like. So we'll talk about that in detail, where it's a must-win game for both teams. Time now to introduce the guests. First of all, in studios, we've been joined by cricket expert and analyst Rizwan Haider. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed.
Great to have you on the show. We've also been joined by cricket expert and analyst Sabir Hussain. Assalamu alaikum, Sabir, how are you?
Walaikum assalam, Ahmed. I'm fine, thank you.
Great to have you on the show as well. Now, like I said, if you want to catch the action of this match between New Zealand and South Africa, it's underway live at PTV Sports HD. You can watch the action there. But considering the form, Rizwan, that we've seen New Zealand, you know, against Pakistan, if we talk about that game as well, I mean, that run rate was something to worry about, because all factors being aligned, I think we still didn't have enough chance to talk about how important that run rate is going to be in this World Cup.
Well, the run rate is going to be important, and the fact that New Zealand had two batsmen retiring during a chase after getting 50s, regardless of the fact that they're going to win or not, and everybody getting runs, and the ease with which they got the runs in 43, 44 overs with overs to spare, just says the sort of confidence that they have, especially, you know, on subcontinent wickets, because New Zealand has always been weak in Indian conditions, in Sharjah, in Pakistan. But the way they've gelled together as a team, and without having, other than Kane Williamson, there's no other superstar in the team. There's no Babar Azam level player, no Shaheen Afridi level player, but they all gel together as a team, and you know, everyone knows his exact role, and they keep chipping in.
Well, the fact is that I think New Zealand, if you talk about the amount of percentage teams have made it to probably the top 4 of the finals of the ICC tournaments, New Zealand would ace that number. And Sabir, it's very important to gauge this, that in this World Cup, every opposition is going to be a new challenge for Pakistan, especially I think the way New Zealand started against Pakistan, now the way they were batting against South Africa, you know, the sheer quality. And remember, Williamson is a guy who's coming back from injury straight into the side. Other than that, Mark Chapman, you've got Daryl Mitchell, everybody is contributing with the bat and ball for New Zealand.
Absolutely, you know, I mean, this particular time, and every team is basically preparing, I mean, themselves very, very, you know, sharply, because they have, you know, some analysis as far as the weaknesses of other teams are concerned. You know, when New Zealand basically toured Pakistan, you know, they played, I think, I think okay cricket in ODIs and also in you know in T20s as well. I mean, they have a couple of youngsters as well, you know, and also the experience of Daryl Mitchell as well, Tom Latham, you know, Ken Williamson this particular time in the World Cup as well. So they have been, you know, playing okay, especially in the subcontinent. I mean, I still remember, you know, in 2011 World Cup as well, they have been, you know, they basically played, I mean, wonderfully well on Sri Lankan soil, you know, and in Bangladesh as well, and on Indian pitches as well. So if we talk about, you know, this particular warm-up match against Pakistan, you know, they had a plan basically. Pakistan, obviously, we basically lacked, you know, as far as, you know, the captaincy of Babar Azam. I think you need to attack. We have seen, you know, Indian, we always talk about Indian basically captaincy, Rohit Sharma, you know, Australian captaincy as well. You need to basically, you know, bring a slip, especially for your spinners as well. I mean, but I mean, we have seen against, you know, the Sri Lankan batsmen, you know, again Afghanistan batsmen as well. Yeah, but they basically scored I mean 300 runs against Pakistani bowling likes of, you know, Naseem Shah, Haris Rauf, Shaheen Shah Afridi. So bowling lineup is kind of, you know, a weak link for Pakistan. Though we have, you know, a good practice. I mean, as far as batting is concerned, Babar Azam basically, you know, he got some runs. Rizwan made a century. And, you know, Saud Shakil was a phenomenal, you know, player. He basically played wonderful, you know, cricketing shots. We in Rizwan Bhai, you know, had a conversation before the show as well that Saud Shakil basically played marvelous, you know, shots. I mean, even the commentators were praising. This shows basically a proper technique guy, you know, who has a technique and temperament as well. So he can play, you know, at any number. I would basically go for Saud Shakil. I mean, before this warm-up match, you know, I was basically, you know, talking about Saud Shakil. He should be given a chance. I mean, he should have been the part of Pakistani squad because he should have been, you're part of World Cup squad. I mean, he should have played against New Zealand as well. He should have played against Afghanistan. But I mean, unfortunately, he couldn't get a chance. I mean, another worry for Pakistan, you know, obviously the bowling lineup, because against Sri Lanka in 42 overs, Sri Lankan you know, batting lineup scored 250. Against Afghanistan, we basically, you know, thrashed by Afghani batsmen against 300 runs. I mean, same situation for here in warm-up matches as well. So bowling lineup is kind of a weak link. We you know, we always talk about spinners are basically struggling. What about your fast bowlers? I mean, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Haris Rauf, you know, though you don't have the luxury of Naseem Shah, Hassan Ali will be crucial because at the pace of, you know, 125, 130, you won't be surviving, especially on these kind of tracks. I mean,
absolutely. And just, you know, before we continue, I'd like you to, you know, get this update from hockey. Pakistan has just lost to Japan 3-2. The match has now ended. Japan have hung on to the lead they got in the second quarter. Of course, it was 1-1 in the first quarter. Then Pakistan scored another goal in the second quarter. Then Japan scored 2 goals. And from the second quarter till the fourth quarter, it was 3-2. So Japan ends up winning the game and they qualify for the semi-finals along with India from Pool A. Pakistan are now out of the semi-finals of this hockey tournament. So that's just an update we'd like to give you. Of course, disappointment indeed. But then again, we've got to come back to cricket. It is the World Cup. You know, South Africa as well, Rizwan, they've had their share of problems. But, you know, if I try to gauge a very potent spin attack amongst teams, I mean, even I think it was very, what can I say, suspicious that people didn't talk about New Zealand and the amount of quality spin they can produce with Ish Sodhi, Mitchell Santner, and the fact that they've got Rachin Ravindra as well. I mean, if you look at these sides, and even for South Africa, I think Tabraiz Shamsi is going to play a key role when it comes to the spin department. So teams are banking on their spin department right now.
If you look at all the teams, I think they've got more than 2 spinners. Even South Africa with Tabraiz Shamsi and Maharaj, they've got 2 proper spinners. Markham bowls a bit like Iftikhar. So England has got Livingston, Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid. Australia also has got Maxwell, Zampa and Ashton Agar is still in the squad, I believe. Similarly, I mean, if you look at Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, they're going to bowl about 35 to 40 overs with spin bowling. And that's where our weakness is, because these are the sort of wickets where spin is going to be very, very crucial in the middle overs. And Pakistan just don't seem to have enough stock. We've just got 2, and Iftikhar or Agha will be the third choice. And I don't see Agha bowling a lot in those overs, and Iftikhar could be crucial. But he's more of a specialist batsman who can, you know, bowl a bit of a dibbly-dobbly spin, but nothing special. He doesn't tweak the ball that much. He can be effective, but he's not going to be your go-to bowler for about 7 or 8 overs if you need somebody, if somebody gets thrashed. So South Africa, I think overall an fine all-round unit. They've got the all-rounder in Jensen who's doing a bit of a Klusener sort of thing. They've got middle-order batsmen like Klaasen and Van der Dusen who can hit around, who can get quick runs in the end. And I think, is the captain gone out of the tournament?
Temba Bavuma.
Bavuma.
No, there's still not confirmed news right now.
Even if he goes out, I think that'll make the team stronger.
Yeah,
Because
Aiden Markram is going to probably captain the side if Bavuma.
because that will be a better choice. I mean, to hell with the quota system, but he's a better choice as a leader. No, of course he is. So I think they're in with a shout for the semi-finals, definitely. And they're more of a shout for South Africa than there is for Pakistan right now.
Well, considering spin bowling, it should be something that we should have aced over the years. I think we had plenty of time, so we can't blame the heavens that we didn't have time enough, Sabir. But it becomes a curious case because the other day we saw Shadab bowling. In the Asia Cup particularly, we talk about that. Then in this warm-up game, we had Osama Mir bowling as well. So then you've got Nawaz, like Rizwan mentioned. You've got Iftikhar. You've got probably Salman Ali Agha. Even Saud Shakil can bowl a bit if needed. So options are still there, but it's all about how much quality you can extract from these options.
Exactly. Shadab Khan, okay, fine, Mohammad Nawaz as well. But in my opinion, I would always go for specialist spinner. Australia, they have a specialist spinners. If you talk about, you're discussing about South Africa. South Africa basically they have two specialist spinners. Keshwar Maharaj and also Tabraiz Shamsi as well. So Aiden Markram basically is a part-timer. Like Salman Ali Agha and Iftikhar, both are basically part-timers. So if you talk about Shadab Khan and Mohammad Nawaz, I will never go for both of them in the same match. I would go for the specialist spinner, which is basically unfortunately we don't have the luxury of Ibrar Ahmed, but Osama Mir, I would go for Osama Mir, and he's the guy basically who is basically picking up the wickets. Shadab Khan, he had a press conference, but he was talking about if whosoever basically bowls really well in this particular World Cup will be the winner of the World Cup. So bowling is important. How basically you are improving your bowling, because you have been struggling for last 1.5 years, especially in ODIs. It's not about bowling 4 overs in T20 cricket. Picking up 1 or 2 wickets, but it's all about bowling 10 overs.
But Sagar, for a year or more than a year, I think, and then I'll ask the same question to Rizwan as well. I think he'd agree. He mostly does, but I think he would agree that we had been ranting about this mantra of having the best bowling attack, a good bench strength, quality. And immediately into the World Cup, we're actually tense that we might not have enough resources for bowling 10 overs each.
Exactly, because these are not specialist spinners. We always pick the talent on the basis of PSL, on the basis of 4 overs as well. So you need to pick up the bowlers, especially in the grassroots level, domestic circuit as well, to play 4-day cricket, to bowl to 25-30 overs in the first inning or 2 innings. Then you will be able to become a proper bowler. We had the luxury of Numan Khan, some other bowlers as well. But for ODIs, you should have picked up, especially you should have basically trained the specialist ODI bowlers. Definitely we shall be struggling, especially in the spinning department. But our fast bowlers, if spinners are not picking up the wickets, your fast bowlers basically need pick up the wickets, especially in the middle overs. Luxury of Hassan Ali, Haris Rauf as well. Shaheen Shafridi, he has been struggling, especially in the death overs as well. So he has to basically improve something. What Morne Morkel is doing, we used to have Umar Gul. Again, we had a quite a good technique in the death overs as well. But Morne Morkel, he has to basically change some tactics as well, because on these pitches you won't be surviving, because small boundaries, batting tracks as well. You need to change your tactics.
Well, Rizwan, same question. I think we were ranting about this best bowling attack in the world and having a quality bench strength in bowling, and immediately, we're scattering for resources over here.
Well, if you, I don't know if you've heard or not, but you're as strong as your weakest link. The squad or the team is as strong as the weakest link. In Pakistan's bowling, if you compare, I just want to compare it with India for the sake of argument.
Yes.
If a spinner goes out, Akshar Patel, you get Ashwin in. That's quality, right? In the playing 11, if you drop Shami, you get somebody else who's as good. Arshdeep is not in the squad.
Not in the squad.
Bhuvishner is not playing.
Yes.
Even if somebody gets injured, you could call those two up. For Pakistan, just one injury has just shown you how weak you are. Naseem Shah goes out, Hassan Ali is just not the same quality. Even if he is, then if something happens to Hassan or Shaheen, then the backup bowler right now is Mohammad Wasim Jr. So, where is the quality? Similarly, Osama Mir was exposed in the practice warm-up game because he hasn't been given proper opportunities. He hasn't played 12, 14, 15 one-day internationals. And even if you haven't, then he should have played about 50 odd list A games.
I think these guys are better off in county cricket. At least they're getting games instead of being benched.
Exactly. So that's the problem. Your weakest link is very weak. Right now, you've got a squad of 11 players, and that's who you're going to play. The rest of the 14 are just replacements if somebody gets injured. like Naseem Shah. Had he been fit, he would have played all through the World Cup and nobody else would have gotten a chance and we would have been very happy. But teams like India, Ishan Kishan goes out, Shreyas Iyer comes in. Rahul is playing one game, the other game Ishan Kishan is keeping the wickets. So it doesn't really matter for them. It's the squad depth that matters, and that's what wins you trophies. And that's what we need to understand. We haven't got that bench strength. We've been harping about how good the bowling attack is, but if you ask me, Shaheen Afridi, if he gets a couple of early wickets in the first spell, then he's a different bowler. If he doesn't, then in the second spell or the third spell, the 40th to 50th over spells, he hasn't been successful. I haven't seen him take wickets.
And probably in the depth as well, you believe, because I think with Naseem's couple of overs, we had the ability to get through those depth overs. But now we're back to square one.
Exactly.
Again.
And who's going to be opening the bowling with
Yes.
Shaheen Shah Afridi? Because Hassan Ali has been known for his first change, coming in as first change. Haris Rauf is pretty good as first change. He hasn't had the exposure of bowling with the new ball. And similarly, your third choice, Mohammad Waseem Jr. is just a bowler who we keep saying is an all-rounder, but I haven't seen him get 20 runs once. So we are lacking in bench strength.
I think you'd get the same amount of runs you get from Hassan Ali than from Waseem Jr.
Yeah,
But
that's-
maybe better as a batter if needed. But then again, you know, we're still at a point that in a ICC ODI World Cup, we're still thinking about who can get more runs, you know, down the order. So that's where we stand right now. I know, therefore, that argument really opens up, which I think, Sabit, let's be honest, Saud Shakil has really proven a point in this game.
He has proved. I mean, you know, we basically, you know, always talk about his technique. You know, he's a better player, and same as Kamran Ghulam as well. You know, we and I myself and K. Asif and you basically, we always talk about, you know, we need to pick the talent, especially on the basis of domestic circuit. I mean, Kamran Ghulam, what's another example, you know, Saud Shakil as well. So these are the guys basically who can, you know, serve you well, especially in ODIs, because 50 over cricket is not a joke basically, you know. T20 side, you know, T20 playing a T20 cricket 5 to 7 balls, like, I mean, we have seen, you know, Mohammad Haris as well, Zaman Khan can bowl, can give you a couple of overs, 2 or 3 overs, but I mean, especially in the 10 overs, basically, we did not prepare these players for, especially for the ODI format. That might be the reason we basically played some lesser ODIs. We did not have the focus on ODIs as well. Suddenly, you know, before 2 to 3 months before Asia Cup, we had a plan. Okay, now we have to, assemble the team for the World Cup. I mean, basically the major teams, you know, the important teams, they basically prepare the World Cup, especially for 1 or 2 years plan. I mean, but unfortunately in Pakistan, we basically prepare for 2 to 3 months. I mean, unfortunately, what about selectors? What about selectors? I mean, what selectors were doing, especially for last 1.5 years. I mean, same Shadab Khan, same Mohammad Nawaz, T20 type of bowlers, they have been bowling in ODIs against West Indies, against New Zealand, against South Africa as well. So they should have thought at that particular time. Also, as far as the middle order batting is concerned, we were basically struggling in T20s and ODIs as well, as far as middle order is concerned, because Babar Azam was making so many runs, Imamul Haq, he was basically making so much runs, Fakhar Zaman, he was basically, you know, playing wonderfully well, especially in Pakistani pitches as well.
But this was a moment to give Fakhar a game at least. I think he could have batted amongst every player, but we were still probably trying combinations. I respect that, but to get a player in form if you want him to be in the playing 11. Otherwise, don't do this that you won't play him in the warm-up and then immediately drop him into the playing 11.
Well, can I just ask?
Yes, please.
Kane Williamson retired today for 37.
Yes, sir.
Can anybody from Pakistan team think of doing that?
Absolutely, sir.
Who did?
Shadab Khan, sir.
Yes, absolutely. Why did Iftikhar not get a chance?
Yes.
You know,
Earlier.
before Shadab.
Yes, because
it just doesn't make sense at all. It's lack of common sense. And I personally, I think the coaching staff has to be blamed. I would say that you know, every team has played very few one internationals. You know, Sabir was mentioning that Pakistan has played very few one internationals in the last World Cup. Every team has played fewer games.
But it's been quality for other teams.
But it's been quality, and you know, we haven't even against Nepal. We have played the same 11 against Afghanistan. We played the same 11 because Babar can't be replaced, Rizwan can't be replaced, Shaheen can't be replaced. If you have that mentality, then Pakistan is not going to benefit. If you keep saying, you know, Babar is #1 in the world and Shaheen has gotten so many wickets in so few games, it doesn't really matter if the team is not doing well. It's every time we've become #1 in any format, we have not been able to maintain it for a year. And Australia or India have been one-day international champions for 5 years in a row, test champions for 6 years in a row. We have not been able to do that for 3 months at most.
Absolutely. I think that rankings all comes down to the point that, you know, how consistent you are in major tournaments. And I think the Asia Cup was a prime example. If you were the #1 team, you got knocked out. So I think that really opens up a debate, and that's why I'm a bit skeptical going against Sri Lanka this time as well. I don't know what's going to happen, but I like to bank on this team as I always do. And all of us have already given our predictions, so Rizwan has got that bit locked as far as that is
Now,
concerned.
I'm very confident against Bangladesh and Afghanistan for
Right.
Pakistan.
Well, that holy grail document says a lot, but I think everything has been written down in blood and sweat. So nobody can shy away from that. But Sabir, point taken, and Rizwan is absolutely right. I think that scheduling of the series, I mean, we were probably obsessed with having an Asia Cup. If we didn't get the Asia Cup, we could have probably scheduled an important series right before the World Cup.
Look, I mean, this is all about Pakistani management. They basically need to forget the Asia Cup. Okay, fine. I mean, they played okay against Nepal and against Bangladesh as well. But you played, a horrible cricket against India, against Sri Lanka as well. But I mean, they have to, have some self-belief, because they proved in the past they performed wonderfully well against the bigger teams. In the bilateral series, I would say, not in the major tournaments like ICC tournaments. But they have to have some self-belief, because this is the time they have to push themselves. They have to have coaching staff as well. Now Mickey Arthur, by the way, he's basically joined the team, and I would I would love to see his contribution, as far as the team director
I
is
thought
concerned.
Sabir is going to say I'd like to congratulate him on joining the
For
team.
finally, taking time out from his important commitments and giving time to your online team.
We all Pakistanis, would like to, say thank you to Mickey Arthur. He basically, get a time for Pakistani team and left basically county. So I would, love to see his contribution for the team.
This is a big contribution, Sabir, leaving county cricket for Pakistan team. It's a big sacrifice.
I'm hopeful that he will change the technique of Babar Azam, and also especially he will guide something to the bowlers, especially in the death overs as well. So he has to play the role as far as the team director is concerned. Obviously, he's the kind of a mentor. He cannot talk about their skill, their technique and temperaments. But obviously, he has to basically give them positive messages. Obviously, they have these skills. Pakistani players basically proved in the past, to be very honest. But we have to have some self-belief, and they have to believe themselves. Okay, they do not listen about. They must not listen to the social media. Shadab Khan, he's a good performer, but in T20s. But Imamul Haq need to step up. The kind of shot he played against New Zealand, because warm-up matches basically give you some time to play, properly. It's not a kind of a joke. Babar Azam basically took some time. Mohammad Rizwan as well. Then they basically, flourished in the middle overs. Same like South Shakil as well. So against Australia, I really, totally agree with Ahmed that Fakhar Zaman should have get a chance, because he was, struggling as far as the runs are concerned, especially in the top order, and especially looking at these kind of boundaries and pitches. Fakhar Zaman will be the key for Pakistan, because you cannot survive at 280, 290. You need to score big. You need to think about 375, especially on these kind of pitches. Otherwise, your bowlers are struggling. You won't be able to survive.
Well, I think survival is just one part of it, but the other part is to make sure that a lot of them don't break down, because it's going to be tough conditions. And that too is one, considering that you're going to be playing 9 games. You better have a plan B this time.
You have to have a plan, and I was really disappointed. I just want to come back to the Pakistan versus India game in the Asia Cup. I don't mind losing. Let's be very, very frank about it. If Pakistan loses but tries hard, I am all for it. But the game in question, India got about 350 runs. We did not even make an effort. I would not have minded Pakistan getting out for 128 had they done it in 15 or 16 overs, in an effort, going with a blaze of glory and going for the runs, big shots and getting out, not a problem. But the way Fakhar got runs for his first run after 10 balls, Babar got his first run after 10 balls, there was no intent, there was no effort. And if that is the case, then in 9 matches in the World Cup, net run rate is going to be crucial. If you lose one game by that sort of a margin, and this happened in the 2019 World Cup when we lost to West Indies by a big margin, and we kept on trying to make sure that the run rate deficit keeps going down and down, and we kept on winning but still could not achieve it.
It's impossible in modern day games.
One bad game can screw your whole tournament, and even if some team makes 350, then you should make an effort to go 290, 280. Even if you're losing, then you make sure that the margin is as little as possible. If a margin is 150 or 200 runs, then you're going to be playing catch up all the time.
Absolutely. Sabir, you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Run rate is obviously important. Every match is important. Like we lost against West Indies, the initial match of the World Cup 2019, and the run rate basically -5, I believe, in the first match. The way we basically lost, we made I think 100 and something, You know, they basically chased down less than 15 overs. I mean, so it was a horrible game. So this particular time, you cannot, I mean, take lighter the Netherlands, the Afghanistan, you know, the Bangladesh team, also the Sri Lankan teams as well. Though these 4 or 5 teams are very, you know, weaker team, I would say, as compared to Australia, England, New Zealand, South Africa. But I mean, you cannot take for granted. I mean, you need to play well, and obviously run rate will be important, especially in this particular format. You have to play 9 matches, and other teams, you know, are very stronger teams. I mean, so every match is important. So, you know, if you're chasing down the target of, if you cannot chase the target of 280, sorry 380, you had a bad day as far as the bowling is concerned, then you need to basically play at least 50 overs. I mean, you need to make at least 320. Let's try to play out all the overs. I mean, that just to, you know, maintain your, especially the run rate, especially in the table format.
Absolutely. I think all of these things should be put into perspective. But Rizwan and Sabir, thank you very much for joining us on the show. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we've got something special. Stay tuned. And welcome back. And now we've got something very special. Somebody very aptly put it on social media that it's going to take more than a suit slayer to, you know, get hold of the king. And the king is the king for a reason. And we're going to be talking about this very interesting fight. And it was Alvarez versus Charlo. And, you know, when you talk about Alvarez, he's been absolutely superb. I think all that talk about him aging through the athletics community and everything, I think everything has been put to rest now. He's really proven that he's still got a fight left in him. And if you look at that fight card as well, with a unanimous decision of 119 to 108, 118 to 109, 118 to 109, and then of course, you know, it really does set the tone. The amount of dominance he had, with the amount of punches, the percentage of jabs he could land, everything in between told us that he was the better fighter. But his opponent still went on to say that, you know, he's proud of himself that at least he didn't get knocked out. So I don't know whether that's an achievement or not. I think we're going to be talking about that in detail. We've been joined on the show by somebody who happens to be a sports expert. He's a fellow anchor as well. Boxing is really his game ever since the days of Real Steel. So he's joining us once again, Ahsan Haqqani. Assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on the show.
It's amazing.
Well, your humor tells us what you think about this fight. But, you know, initially talk us through the pre-fight and everything that was being said. What did you initially make of it when you heard about the fight card?
First off, the boxing that is in me started way back than Real Steel. It was primarily because of the fact that Amir Khan was there. But then again, there was somebody late last night known as Canelo Alvarez, who was the reason why Amir Khan retired. In the 6th round, he knocked him out earlier. And he is undoubtedly the king of boxing when you talk about the super welterweight division. And when you talk about Jermell Charlo, both of them are 34 years old. They were talking about Canelo retiring or something. I don't think he's going to retire anytime soon, because Jermell Charlo was coming in at 154. Then he went up to 168 pounds to fight Canelo Alvarez. It was undisputed versus undisputed. Both of them were coming up with 4 belts. So it was a very amazing competition. Whoever was going to win this fight was going to take away a kitty of 40 to 50 million US dollars in a single night.
No wonder Charlo traveled 2 divisions north, I think, if you talk about the
Absolutely.
classes. So, you know, he really...
Something similar to what Amir Khan did, but then again, the same result. But yes, Charlo was really happy because he didn't get knocked down knocked out like Amir Khan. He just got knocked down.
Well,
that's an achievement on its own.
Well, I understand Garcia probably had, you know, if you talk about this fight...
Canelo Alvarez.
Yes, Canelo Alvarez. I'm going to come to the other fights in a bit as well. But if you talk about Alvarez, like I said, before this fight, despite all the rumors and everything, his record spoke for himself.
Yeah.
And as a fighter, you probably, and you understand that psyche and that terminology better, that he had nothing to prove before this fight. Going into the fight, he was probably... you know, tipped to be the best, probably more money on it.
Even in the pre-fight analysis, when they were talking about it, when both of the boxers met each other, Canelo was like, Jermell, you have a lot to learn, and I'm going to make sure you go out of the ring after learning that. And that's what he made sure. He's been a fighter, a pro fighter, pound for pound best in his division for the longest of time. He's just lost to Dimitri Bivol. That is when he went up 2 divisions north. And then the other fight was against Floyd Money Mayweather, and he's the best ever. So, I mean, giving full credit to the pound for pound king right now, that's Canelo Alvarez in the super welterweight division.
Do you see? Did you feel that during the fight you saw Charlo probably a bit shaken with the fact, or did you see that he was still into the game? Because apparently some boxing pundits had called it that in between the rounds they saw him probably lacking that focus because that sheer dominance started from the very first round from Alvarez.
It was a dominating performance by Canelo Alvarez. It started off with Canelo Alvarez going towards the body. The body shots make sure that Jermell Charlo doesn't have his own power shots. It drains you out as a boxer when you get too many body shots. That was the game plan of Canelo Alvarez since the time that he started, and then deep in the rounds, probably the round 6th, when he made sure that he goes down on his knee. Now, a very clever thing to do by Jermell Charlo, not to get knocked out rather than taking a knee and then making sure that he drops some points, but then again comes back with a recovery, which he couldn't do.
So that at that time probably the fight had already been lost.
Absolutely, it was a dominating performance. Not a single round has been won by Jermaine Charlo, so it's evident.
What's next? Let's talk about Charlo first of all. What's next for him?
I mean, he should go back to his own division, fight as the pound for pound best in his own division. That's where he belongs. He has a bit of boxing in his career. He's 34 years old as well. Both of the boxers were 34, but then again, the African American gene kicks in and they go till 40 years. So we can expect something from Jermell Charlo. When you talk about Canelo Alvarez, he's the pound for pound king in the division. He's got nothing to prove, but then again, people like Errol Spence and people like Crawford are there who can give him a shot if they go up north 2 divisions themselves. Jermaine Charlo has yet to face Crawford. Jermaine Charlo has yet to face Errol Spence. Both of them are amazing boxers, but then again, Crawford made sure that he's the pound for pound king in his division after beating Errol Spence.
I was going to come to that you would probably put more money on Crawford than anyone else.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then again, if it's Canelo versus Crawford, I'd put 50% on both of them.
But
it's very close.
That's probably why we say Canelo becomes one of the best in his division, because the fact is, even after the fight, and we saw some of those spectacular visuals as well, even after the fight, very calm, very composed, went up to Charlo as well, told him that, kid, you've done well, although, like you said, they share the same age.
Yeah, but then again, experience counts. He's fought the pound for pound best boxers in the division. Coming up with the exposure that Canelo has and the amount of boxers, the classic great boxers that he's fought. And just as I mentioned, Amir Khan's career was over after fighting Canelo. So yes, these are the times when you need to look out for Canelo Alvarez, since he's made a $365 million deal with the DAZN. That's the promoter. He used to box for Golden Boy, but the Golden Boy is scouting for more boxers now, since he's left with no elite boxers in his stable.
Well, where is this moving to now? Because like you said, that Charlo still got a long way to go. Alvarez has nothing to prove over here. So probably, this settles it between the two fighters. I don't know if people will talk about a rematch or not, but I don't see it happening.
I don't think there's a rematch clause in this, and there shouldn't be. I mean, it was a one-sided affair. What does Canelo have to prove more? Nothing at all. I mean, Jermaine Charlo, go back to your own division. Let's fight it out and make some money and then retire.
Leave the big boys on their own. Yeah, probably. Don't touch them.
Probably Canelo can go up one division, but going 2 divisions up was detrimental for him, since he lost to Dimitri Bivol. Yeah.
So you want him to go, upper division?
I mean, it's going to be very exciting whenever Canelo is boxing. I mean, he's got his own crowd with him, all the Mexicans cheering him up every single day. Whenever it's Cinco de Mayo, it's a big fight for Canelo Alvarez, and everybody is glued to the screens. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the US was about to get bankrupt late last night, but people were glued to the boxing screens, knowing that, at the end of the day, Joe Biden came to the rescue.
Well, I love it how you give it a political angle as well. You probably, you've got some campaigning to do yourself as well. You've got that left in you. But, all in all, an interesting fight. Technically as well, we've discussed it. Asin has given us the details as well. One last important thing I must ask you, and I always do that, and you know that, I'll keep asking this question. With the evolution that we're seeing in boxing, especially the amount of money now that is pouring in from Saudi Arabia, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Where is this paradigm shift moving to?
Oh, you've asked an excellent question, because of the fact that Usyk is going to be boxing Fury very soon, and that is scheduled to be in Saudi Arabia. So yes, it's going to be shifting towards Saudi Arabia. As I told you before, boxing is about the money game now. and it's all about promotions. Just as I told you, 365 million US dollars going to a new promoter for 11 fights. That's Canelo Alvarez. But when you talk about Tyson Fury, he's got a lot in him. And he's the pound for pound king when we talk about the heavyweight division. So every single division is exciting and gets more exciting when the money keeps on pouring in. And especially Saudi Arabia is going to be the Mecca of boxing. It's going to be the Mecca of UFC as well very soon. We are going to see the influencers boxing in Saudi Arabia as well. So pretty much excitement going towards the Middle East now. It used to be Las Vegas, the capital,
yes.
the hub, and then the T-Mobile Arena in the UK. But it's all going to fade away when it's not the money game and Saudi Arabians have all the money that
Well, I think
boxers can be offered.
all part of that Vision 2030 that they've got up their sleeves, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. Already they've invested primarily in football and it's producing results, so why not? But Ehsan Haqqani, thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure having you, mate. And you know, Ehsan's always kind enough to join us and give us the latest of details. But one thing is for sure, I think when we see this paradigm shift, it is truly like Ehsan said. But I will clearly say this on state television. I am a Fury fan, so I'm always going to stick with Tyson Fury on that one, and not just because of his in-ring performance, but what he's been doing outside the ring as well is pretty interesting.
One more news that
Yes.
before we go out, there was a fight to be scheduled between Deontay Wilder and what's his name? The heavyweight king of the UK used to be. God damn. Anyway, Deontay Wilder is not going to be fighting him anymore. It used to be between all talks between Deontay Wilder and him before the Fury Deontay Wilder 3 mega fights came in between. But now it's not going to be scheduled.
You're talking about Anthony Joshua?
Anthony Joshua,
Yes,
that's
Anthony.
it. Anthony
But
Joshua.
you know, interestingly, I was just reading this, Wilder has also tipped Usyk to beat Fury in that fight as well. So I don't know where did that come
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, coming. It's all about the boxing acumen. It's not about the brawl. It's about the brains when you talk about boxing. And Tyson Fury has a different attitude over here. He knows where to go and where to. I mean, if you look at Deontay Wilder versus Fury, it was all about the mind game that Fury put into Deontay Wilder's mind. And at the end of the day, Deontay Wilder was zeroed out by Fury.
I think that name calling did pretty much the damage before the fight. But that's the way boxing is, and that's why you love Fury. It brings the real essence of that, you know, bad British boy up to the circle. But Ehsan, thank you very much for joining us. That wraps it up from me and the entire team. It's goodbye for now.